This episode is brought to you by FlowFit. Your hormones should not be changing so dramatically that you could stab somebody one day and hug them the next, or leave you crying because your dog won't let you cuddle him. But if on top of that, you never know when your period's coming and you know you're overtraining and undereating, or you know that your body is just stressed the fuck out, you're 1 in 10, not the only one. And I've built a 6-week challenge that is not only customized to your body, but it shows you how to eat, train, and think to match your cycle with specifically targeted nutrition plans and training programs and daily mindset practices that help you feel like yourself again in no more than an hour a day. And I educate you on the go while you're already implementing and benefiting from those changes. Head to www.flowfit.live, or you can book a 15-minute Zoom call with me through my link tree on Instagram, and we can talk about if FlowFit is right for you. Welcome back to the WAM Mouthful Podcast. I'm so excited about this setup today because this is also being filmed on the YouTube channel I have. So just type into Zibara and you'll find it. This is like the first actual sit down but couchy vibe, because in the past I've had people on the podcast and I've sat opposite them. But this is a real loungy, chill vibe. And you can hear somebody giggling in the background if you're just listening. This is Nicola Johnson. So Nicola is a mum friend of mine. But more importantly, the way that I met her was I used to go to the clinic that you founded. So PH Clinic is the clinic that she founded, and it's such a super amazing place. And I found it kind of just walking in the area. And it was actually our daughters, so Billy and Scotty, who were attracted to each other. And then I was like, this is such a great place. Do you go? And you're like, I own it. And I was like, cool. I want to be your friend. So here we are, friends. But you're also a practitioner, a colonic hydrotherapist. And correct me if I'm wrong, but PH Clinic was founded on that. That's the most basic principle for PH is the colonics that PH offers.
Yep. So that was its foundations, which it's kind of evolved past further more than I ever thought it would.
Yeah.
But yeah, back in 2015, I just kind of took the plunge to open a space. I just wanted people to feel heard and supported with their health, with alternative therapies in the local community. There was nothing really like it in the area in which we originally opened, which is in Manly, on the Northern Beaches. And it was the first of its kind. It was a bit of a risk because colonics is still a very fringe therapy. It's not known, and if it is known, it's generally not spoken about.
Yep.
But it was really well received, a really health conscious community like Manly, and it's kind of gone from strength to strength. And we evolved and kind of, have other practitioners that specialize in detoxification and gut health and hormones and, manual therapy and all sorts of bits and bobs. And now we are a team of 18 practitioners up at our new space in Balgowlah, which is up the road.
Yeah.
Are across 10 different modalities.
And it's so awesome because even you just explaining that, any listeners or viewers are just going to be if you can just imagine that it's a healthy person's playground, which is how I always describe it, because I've been an ambassador for PH, and it was because I first went there and then we happened to be friends, but because I would go there and I'd love it so much and I would talk so highly of it, then we were let's make this an official relationship. And I tell you what, it has just totally transformed my health, and through all of my mold issues and how much that had affected my hormones and just my general health, and I think mostly my mental health, that was just a game changer for me personally. So yeah, PH has just been the absolute best thing. I'm so grateful that I live close to it. Even just thinking about house sitting in different places, I was oh gosh, I don't want to move away from PH. So what do I do?
What suburbs surround PH?
Exactly.
Look in those suburbs, Gus.
Exactly. And so you mentioned as well that you wanted to create a place where people felt supported.
Yeah.
And I know your story, and I never ask people to tell us their story. I'll tell you what, I'm cutthroat. I find it boring.
I was going to say, it's just a bit of a... No, so I get the violin out, you know.
No, I know, but I feel like this one is so. It's just so good because. Okay, so let me bring it back because what I was going to say was, you know, you want people to feel supported, but that always comes from you want to create this space where the kind of space that you wish that you had.
100%.
And so I really want to kind of go through like your story growing up because it's very interesting. And I think because colonics is such a fringe therapy, like you said, and I know like it's helped me and et cetera, we'll get into that. I really want you to just tell your story and like specifically like getting dismissed medically, and then what led you to find colonics, because obviously you loved it so much and it helped you so much you became a hydrotherapist yourself.
Yeah. Okay, I'll try and keep it, I'll put it in brackets because it's many years, so it could go for years, but no, I don't want to go for years. So actually I think I listened to one of your podcasts where you shared your history with skin issues as a teenager, and you went to different, you know, long-term antibiotic use, minomycin, doxycycline, Roaccutane, like all of them. Similarly, my teens were a reflection of the same story. I was also an eczema child as a baby and always had skin flare-ups and sensitivities. Again, back in the 90s, no one was really looking at like food intolerances and like
gut health.
Gut health was like, it's like, no, your gut is just where you eat and eliminate, like no two ways about it. Nothing was really known about the intricacies of what happens in there and bacterial involvement. And, you know, still to this day, there's so many things that we don't know. So yeah, I had not a great start, I would say. And I was on a lot of steroid creams and antibiotics, and it was a definite overuse of all of those things, which obviously hinder your bacterial diversity, your immune response and immune kind of robustness is like nothing is optimal.
Yeah. And you went to those things, steroid creams and antibiotics, because that's the only tools.
Well, you go to a doctor and they are the solutions that are given to you, right?
Yeah.
And especially back then, I feel like more things have changed and people are asking more questions and doing more research, I guess. Back in the 90s, you don't even have the internet, right? So you go to your GP and you have an issue and they give you a solution and you say thank you when you're on your way. And so that's what we did. And I remember like oh my God, the creams, they worked, but my God, as soon as you stopped using them, things came back like tenfold. So yeah, my mum and dad, we did our best and with the information that we had, but things weren't getting better over a period of time. Things were definitely trending gradually in the wrong direction, I would say. Like symptomatically, I'd get relief every now and then.
Would you know what created that relief, or
I mean,
no pattern to it?
Seasonal changes.
Yes.
I guess dietary stuff. I remember for a while, mum was hardcore on like food colorings. And so we're like, you know, any kids' parties, they're like, no Smarties, no this, no that. But, you know, it's one element, right, of like a huge web. So, yeah, it was a bit of a kind of web of things. But, then come kind of teenage years, skin, and then gut, super sluggish digestion. Went to doctors, gastroenterologists, specialists, second opinions, this, that. I was super constipated, and I had still skin flare-ups that would come and go. It was just a bit of an anomaly as to what was going on because I ate really well. Like I was eating whole foods, I wasn't eating crap, I was exercising, I was drinking water, like I was doing all the things, like textbook things. Back then and even now they, you know, preach fiber and all of these things, but I was trying that. I was trying everything, and I was having on average about one bowel movement every 2 to 3 weeks.
Gosh.
Sometimes it would be a month to 6 weeks, and it was just like, where is it going and how am I operating?
Which is so much more common than we would think.
Oh yeah,
like so much more common.
Well, I actually remember saying to mum, I think I was like 14, I was like, oh, my tummy really hurts, mum. She's like, do you need to go to the toilet? And I was like, no, I went last week. And she goes, what? And I was like, yeah, I went last week. She was like, no, darling, like, what do you mean? And she didn't even know because I thought that was normal. Because that was, and it's not spoken about. So here enter the mum now that goes and analyses my children's bowel movements. I'm like, great poo, Scotty. Awesome. Love that one. Well done for you. High five. And she yells out from down the hall, hey, Mum, I've done a poo.
Oh, my God.
I'm like, yep, that's my daughter.
That's exactly Billy. I remember this one time she was on the street and she yelled back to me. And I said, Billy, where are you? She goes, Mom, I just did a poo and it was a clean break.
A clean break. Great terminology. See? These are the people of our future.
I know.
I love this
Well,
for
like,
us.
it's a healthy poo. She knows what a healthy poo is.
Amazing. I love it. Oh, it's so good. So yeah, so much for those brackets. We haven't really kept it in brackets.
That's fine. But I think the main thing as well to like highlight was like you were severely constipated. Your mum wasn't aware of it because you wouldn't have thought to tell her because you thought that was normal.
That was normal.
So what is normal?
Exactly. How long is a piece of string?
Yeah.
Like there is no normal because every unique individual is different, right?
Yeah.
So everything from motility to, you know, how your sebaceous glands emit oil from your skin, everyone is going to have differences and anatomical differences as far as organ height, length, diameter. So ideally, transit time, you want to, from the meal that you eat to eliminate, you want to be anywhere from 12 to 36 hours of it entering to exiting.
And you can do a test with that by eating beetroot.
Boom. Or mixing white sesame seeds in water and drinking it.
I didn't know that one.
Yeah.
But the beetroot trick, guys, as well, and that one is self-explanatory.
It is, but beetroot is actually a quicker, because it's the pigment. It's not necessarily the digestibility of the fibre.
Okay. I love to be told I'm wrong. This is good. Okay, so run us through exactly how to do the white sesame seed test.
So teaspoon of white sesame seeds.
Yep.
Glass of water.
Yep.
And scald.
Literally, that's it. You don't have to wait for it to like soak up or grind it. It's just
no. It's not chia, so it's not going to expand.
Yeah.
It's a seed that will be evident in your stool. It'll kind of look like a crumbed sausage, little white spots.
Should we be careful with seeds if you have any kind of like diverticulitis?
Yeah, okay. I was going to say there are, you know, again, this is all the, you know, individual variation from person to person. If you do have diverticulitis, diverticulosis, seeds can get stuck in the pockets of your bowel and create that kind of inflammatory response. So wouldn't recommend it if you are that way.
So could they try beetroot? I know there's another one. I think I don't know if it's like the turmeric test. There is a third one. I can't think of it. Google it because I just really can't think of what it is. But I would normally do the beetroot test, but that's interesting.
The pigment is faster than what the digestibility
well,
of the
I guess
fibre
knowing
is.
That, if it still was 36 hours before you saw the pigment, you're pretty, like, you're sure.
Well, I've had clients drink beetroot juice for breakfast and I've seen it in their colonic that morning. Okay. So it can be, that's too fast.
Yeah.
If you're looking at digestibility, but because the pigment, it's...
Yeah, interesting. Okay. So generally we want to have like one-ish bowel movement a day.
That would be ideal.
Just a general rule of thumb, right? Okay, so how did you go from constipation, weeks at a time, not going to the toilet, to like where you are now? Like I know you're tired with two young kids
every day, and I high five myself every time.
That's like me when I get that period. I'm like, whoa!
Yes, I love that. It feels good. And I think back to like even just the mental health affected years of not eliminating, just like it bogs you down in every sense of the word. You don't have clear thoughts. You know, your serotonin, your happy hormones aren't able to flourish and do what they need to do. So you have
because 90% of that is made in your gut.
Boom.
Yep, it's true. Which is your happy hormone, which is also your sleep hormone.
Yes. Your sleep. My God, I used to wake between like 2 and 4 a.m. and just be like, I generally in quite a bit of discomfort and pain, but like, all your circadians, your happy hormones, your hormonal cycles, like everything is based off a synergistic system. Like everything works together. Yeah. And that's where I also felt came a point for me, like a big realization was when I was in specialists' offices. And I was like, you are looking at one organ or one area and you weren't asking me any questions about everything else. But then I'd go to another specialist and you're going to tell me about this. I'm like, do you guys chat? No, you're not chatting. So I'm talking to you about this. I'm talking to you about this. I'm talking to you about this. and you're giving me different advice for 3 different systems that are all terrible.
Yeah.
None are functioning.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I feel like we all need to have a chat.
Yes.
Because I am one body.
Yeah.
Right?
Let's go.
Come on. No, not interested.
Isn't that, and like, look, this is the thing. It's like, it's good to be a generalist. Like,
totally. You need an element of you needs to be a journalist.
That's right. Because you can't, like, this is the thing, like, you can't look at anything that goes on in the body, anything in isolation.
Absolutely not.
Because you are like one whole unit.
Right.
I feel like we missed like a really important point before. So you went from like constipation for a few weeks at a time to pooping every day. Yay. Colonics, would you say, played the biggest role in that?
Yeah. I would say they were a big kind of turning point for me, along with 100 other things.
Yeah.
But
like as an underlying principle for you.
Yeah.
Because like to me, it obviously made such a difference for you that you then became a colonic hypnotherapist.
Yes.
Like that is the evidence to me of how influential it was in your life.
For sure. For sure. Where I was so, well, I didn't know I was ever going to be a practitioner, to be honest. And I, you know, and even now people are like, what do you mean? You look at people's bums all day? Like, and that is your job. I'm like, well, actually, no, I don't. It's for a split second, and I'm generally just having conversations and abdominal massage. But it blew me away learning everything and seeing the effect it has on others in my clinical practice. That's what was so profound for me, because I was like, it's been huge for me. And it was huge for me on many levels. It wasn't just physical, of like eliminating, waste that had been in there for far too long and allowing my body to actually begin to operate and feel good. It was also emotional. It was also, oh my God, I felt like I was having crazy dreams, and I was having like outer body experiences and super deep meditations, because I was a yoga teacher at the time as well. And I was... Yeah, it was every level the colonics affected, not just, oh, cool, I can poop again. And it wasn't, my God, it was not one colonic and I felt this way.
Yeah.
It was a series and a journey and a process and a commitment, and man, many ups, couple downs. It was like a game of snakes and ladders, to be honest. And there was no linear journey of solutions.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I was told by a gastroenterologist that everything he had done, he'd exhausted all avenues, and he had recommended an operation where they wanted to remove my bowel in order to reduce the transit time so that I would go to the toilet more frequently.
And completely disregarding why you had the problem in the first place, let's just shorten it so you go to the toilet quicker.
And some antidepressants, because we believe your gut issues are in your head.
Oh,
that was a low blow. I was like, I was like, I don't know if I feel sick because of the comment or because I'm just really unwell.
Yeah.
But it was that appointment that I stood up and I said to my mum, come on, we're going. And I'm not paying you today. Thank you. And he goes, pardon? And I said, your advice has not been helpful at all, except for the fact that I know I'm never coming back here.
Wow.
And that was the end of my specialist.
You're balls, girl.
I was exhausted.
Oh, look, totally.
I think that's what it was. I mean, yeah, I'm pretty fiery. I'm not going to lie. But I'm a really nice person. I want to be a nice person.
But you can't when you're full of shit.
When you're full of shit and no one's believing you, you're like, are you serious? They even took x-rays. And I'm like, wow, she is full of shit. And I'm like, I told you.
Yeah.
Nothing was working. Their most extreme laxatives, like everything had become, I became immune to them.
Yeah. I know so many friends who've had eaten a radioactive sandwich to see how far it gets. And I suggested to her just one quick, easy solution, and she was pooping like normal. And I was like, "You've been going to specialist for how long?" But I digress. How does a colonic actually work? So if you were to give me an elevator pitch on how it works, because I'm trying to make sure that we stay on time, because I know we can chat. We're so good at it. We're great chatters. How would you just describe it in an easy to understand terminology? Because some people have heard bum and full of shit, but they're like, but what is actually happening? Okay,
so a colonic is basically a bath for your bowel.
Mm-hmm.
So your large intestine, this is the other thing that's quite confusing for a lot of people. The one organ has many names. A bowel is the same as a large intestine, which is the same as a colon, which is your larger of the two intestines. Where
Fatter but shorter.
Correct.
And at the end.
Yes. The last port before the elimination. So it's basically a infusion of warm filtered water into the large bowel, and then we allow that water to leave. We don't suck it out. We don't high pressure hose. It's very gentle. So it's a bath where we're soaking the walls of the bowel and the contents of the bowel, which is all already digested food, hopefully. No nutrient absorption happens in the colon, so we're not obstructing digestion. It's the organ where you are absorbing water, so we're putting water in there, we're delivering water to the source, and it's body temp, so your body's not feeling, hot
threatened
or cold.
Yeah.
The idea is we're coaxing the body into a sense of like relaxed state where it allows itself to eliminate, because you need to be in that relaxed state to eliminate and actually let the treatment do what it needs to do.
Sometimes people can have like what we call impaction, where it's just like you've just got years and years of like hardened poo stuck to the wall, right here. And that's what we're talking about, like being full of shit. Not like you're a liar, right? Like you're physically full of shit.
Sometimes.
If I'm telling Scotty how children are made.
It really does depend. But yes, no, and even people, that's the other thing that people say, oh, but I go to the toilet every day, so I can't have impaction, or yes, you can. I have had clients come to me with x-rays and be like, my doctor's just done this and I'm full of shit, but I go to the toilet every day. So the bowel is a muscle. It can expand in one area to hold, to allow something else. Even people that are experiencing diarrhea can still have fecal impaction. It's an overflow can occur in where the body is sending water in to try and eliminate these impactions. But also the plaque and mucus that hardens and builds up on the walls of the large intestine, it inhibits its function, so therefore you can't absorb water properly. And this stuff ends up hosting pathogens and parasites and overgrowths of yeasts and all sorts of things that we don't want in there, and that's what creates disease
from the gut. Which is interesting because an opposing argument for people will be like, oh, but if you like put water up there, it'll like flush out all my good bugs.
Great question. Love this one. I've actually, that's the biggest kind of, I'd say, intellectual question, because generally everyone just goes, does it hurt? And is it embarrassing? And it's like, that's all very surface level. But when people are saying they're on their health journey and they're like, no, I'm trying to build up my diversity and I need, I've had a GI map done and this is a problem. Will this hinder that more or create more issues? In a very short answer, absolutely not. So good bacteria can only proliferate and grow in an environment that is balanced and not full of all the bad guys. So you've got your opportunistic bacteria, which will go either way, good or bad.
Based on the environment, dictated by the environment.
Right? So if your opportunistic bacteria are all going, well, this is a cesspool of disgusting plaque, mess, parasites, candida. I'm just going to, they're kind of influenced by everything else that's going on in there. Whereas if you start eating really well and you're drinking water and you're
not full of shit
and, you have all these beautiful, healthy rituals that create a good environment internally, your opportunistic guys are going to start to piggyback off your good, and there we go. We have diversity. There is no research done on this specifically, so I guinea pigged myself about 8 years ago. I did a stool test and looked at my bacterial diversity and the levels of them. I did a series of 5 colonics in 3 weeks. Was it 2 weeks? And ate all whole foods, did a really kind of balanced diet that I would recommend to someone. Not that one person should eat, not that everyone should eat the same diet, but for my constitution and how my body works. Ate really well, eliminated alcohol, eliminated coffee, and then did another GI test, stool test, and I had higher diversity and more species.
Wow.
And I felt fucking amazing because I had just treated my body to basically, you know, a retreat for itself.
Yeah.
Of like healthy body, healthy mind. I was still in my environment at home. Like I wasn't, you know, away in a third world country picking up parasites left, right and center or anything like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a really great experiment and I had no idea what was going to happen, but I was sick of getting questions from everyone and not having answers.
Yeah.
So that was my way of getting the answers.
I love that because the best kind of studies is an N of one. And the whole point of all this kind of like alternative natural medicine is that we are individuals,
right?
And that we are looked at it with just this like blanket, like everyone has to do this and everyone has to take that pill if they're like, you know what I mean? Like,
for sure.
And that just doesn't benefit anyone.
No.
Even like, you know, for me, just the blanket of like men and women are the same.
Oh man, don't even get me started.
You know,
but the age of people.
Exactly. Which is like just varies it so much. But I just think that is so important that you did that. Like, and I know you would have been so driven and you would have been so like disciplined.
Oh man.
Because you were like, I just want to know the answer to this.
And you know what? I think I actually submitted 2 stool tests at both ends because I wasn't sure if I was going to get contamination in the lab. Not that, I mean, it still leaves, you know, it's only 2. Yeah. It's not 100. It would have been great if I had 100 people and 100, you know, sets of data. Yeah. But and there was slight variation from test A and test B on both ends, but overall the diversity and count of bacteria was much greater after my cleanse.
That is so awesome because even in, you know, preparation for this episode, there wasn't a lot of research that we could find.
There is none,
right? And you know that firsthand, I know, because you're always looking like everything that you do and everything that you're about is all about like backing it up with research. You got so much research on red light therapy, your infrared sauna and everything else that you provide and offer people as well. But I know that if there was any research on colonics, you'd have it.
I mean, one day if I get really bored or if there's like an extra 24 hours in a day, I would love to go down that rabbit hole. Yeah. And, you know, commission some. But
if anybody has any, please send them. We want some support for colonics because you see people in real life. Sometimes it's like, yes, I know that studies say this, but when you personally have experienced it and you see multiple, possibly even hundreds by now, maybe even thousands. Of people saying the same thing. It's like, there is something here that the literature is missing. And that's where I'm like, that just trumps literature. It's like, you've got to take people on their word.
Right. The anecdotal wisdom of especially things that aren't gaining the traction and gravity, you know, especially a medical establishment, they're generally, they're the research pushers, right? Yeah. Because they're trying to prove their drugs work and that there's no side effects in this and the statistics of that.
And that's not being political. That's just like fact. It's fact. It's like you always want to prove that what you're doing is the right thing. So you will have everything to support that and back that up and the government grants that are giving out for the research that's being undertaken because that is very time intensive and very expensive.
Exactly.
It's coming from the people that are also benefiting from what you're buying, which is the drugs that, you know, doctors are prescribing. And I'm not saying that that's the wrong thing to do in terms of the prescriptions of the drugs. Sometimes that's the thing that needs to be done and that is A-okay. But we know that there's a lot more to that story.
Oh, there's so many layers. Yeah.
So there's not a lot of research, but you did that experiment, which I think is awesome. And I just think it's just so great to just have a look at this as another option for people to consider.
For sure. Yeah. For, I mean, definitely like bowel dysfunction and digestive disorders and issues. But I mean, especially these days, people are realizing that they are well, but they want to feel better. You know, yourself even mentioned it's a healthy person's playground. Yes. So, but for some people, it's where they go because they're sick. So it's not necessarily, you know, colonics can be what that individual needs them to be. Yeah. So it can be working way more reactively in that actually someone is just finished their 4th round of chemo and they're super toxic and we're working to support their system because they're going to do another round of chemo. They are not well by any stretch of the imagination. But then you have people like, you know, my husband, for example, he's an elite athlete. His body is like incredibly well functioning. He's never had a gut issue in his life. He digests everything and anything, and he's just like a well-oiled machine. He still gets colonics.
Yeah.
So it's kind of maintaining what's already good when you love that it is good.
Yeah.
And it's the analogy of, you know, you take your car for a service. If you buy a new car, you're not going to just keep driving your car until it breaks down one day.
Yeah.
You are going to take it to get serviced because things build up, residue builds up. Yes, the car does an amazing job of off-gassing here and eliminating that. And yes, the oil runs out, we'll top that out. But things need to be serviced and attended to so optimal function continues.
Yeah.
Your body is no different.
And we have to also remember that colonics is like an ancient practice. So it's not like this is the first time in like modern society that this has been happening. But it is really interesting because I think it's very novel for a lot of people to think, oh my God, I'm going to shove something up my butt and like put water in my colon. Like, what? That doesn't make any sense. But, you know, yes, it's a little bit awkward when you first do it, but I think it's best for you to do it with a therapist, like a hydrotherapist, somebody who knows what they're doing, where you know it's sterilized, you know it's cleaned, you know that they're looking for certain signs and symptoms because, or like, you know, if you need to go to the toilet at a certain time, they know when it's too much for you. All those kinds of things is so important for you to be sort of monitored and supported by somebody who knows what they're looking for and is like seasoned on helping people.
Absolutely.
Like with the actual process itself. But I also think it's worth knowing, so many people ask me about detoxification. You can detoxify all you want. You can clear your liver. You can, you know, drink my detox tea and all of those things. But if you're not eliminating that, and yes, we eliminate through sweat and urine too, but if you're not eliminating that, then you are just you're spending all this money and all this time and all this energy to like liberate toxins so that they can leave the body, but then they can't leave the body.
It's like a 6-lane highway that's like got a traffic jam down to 1.
Exactly.
The backup is way upstream, right?
Yeah.
And when you start that colonic journey and have, you know, a series of treatments, what the liver and the kidneys and every other cell in the body is told by the colon is, hey, I've actually got 6 lanes open down here. Yeah. Someone's really doing me a favor. If you've got any stuff, send it down and I'll help eliminate that.
That's right.
So it's taking the burden off every other part of the body, not just isolated to the digestive tract.
And supporting what our body should naturally do that it just gets a bit stuck.
Totally.
So it's like, it's something your body already does.
Yes.
And it's just like, how can we just put on some training wheels and just assist this and help this to happen?
For sure.
I have loved this conversation. This has been so awesome. I just think that it is such a good opportunity for people to just explore something that maybe they haven't considered before. I love colonics. And because I had done them so much at PH, I now feel comfortable enough to do like home enemas by myself. And now that my bowels are working, I like really like focus on like my liver and being able to do coffee colonics. But I know that you offer that at PH Clinic as well, which is so fantastic for liver. But you've got to make sure that the colon is working first. If you're not pooping and you're not getting that stuff out, you can do all the detoxing in the world and it's just not going to help. But like just
reabsorbs, right?
Exactly.
Like back into the bloodstream.
That's right. Because, and I call this like dirty like poop water, right? Because it's like whatever's down there, whatever waste is down there, if that's not going out, then anything that's water soluble, that's a water soluble toxin is then, because like you're saying, that large intestine will reabsorb the water to kind of recycle water in your body because we need so much of it.
More than we drink.
Then the potential of that being like uptaken, you know, like we still don't know all the answers to all this kind of stuff, but that is definitely a potential.
For sure.
You know? Look, I love it. I'm just so glad for Nicola in my life because had you not had your experience and your story, then I wouldn't have ever found PH Clinic and I wouldn't have been able to up-level my health. Because I always used to live in Bondi and like look at like the colonic places and I was like, oh my God, one day I'm gonna like have enough money to do a colonic. Seriously.
I love that.
But thanks Nicola for coming on. I hope you guys loved it. Let me know if you did in the What a Mouthful Facebook group and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.